Asterisk, after 3 years of sacrifice, of late nights that blurred into dawn and weekends stolen by deadlines, I thought I knew what loyalty meant. I thought it would be rewarded. But that belief shattered the moment Arthur, my father-in-law, and the man I once admired, lifted his champagne glass and announced his niece as the new regional director. Lily Monroe, he said with a grin. Our future. The applause exploded around me, but my hand stayed limp in my lap. I forced myself to clap, each sound hollow, mocking. 8 weeks. That was all Lily had been here. 8 weeks compared to my 3 years of blood and sweat. I had been promised this promotion, promised, and now, as Arthur's eyes flickered toward me, guilt or maybe defiance flashed for a brief second before he looked away. Of course, he added smoothly. Amy has already been such a wonderful mentor to Lily. I know she'll continue to support her in this new role. Support. The word curdled in my mouth. Support meant smiling as I was replaced. Support meant training the woman who had stolen the future I had earned. Smiled the way a drowning person pretends they can still breathe. When the meeting ended, I walked back to my office on legs that felt foreign. My nameplate gleamed on the door, Amy Hayes, Senior Operations Manager. But it already felt like a lie. My certificates for Employee of the Year hung on the wall, mocking me. 3 of them, 1 for each year. Proof of my worth, now reduced to decorations no one cared about. My phone buzzed. Joseph, my husband. How did the announcement go? Finally official? I stared at the screen, unable to tell him the truth in a text. We'll talk tonight, I typed instead. The rest of the day crawled by in a haze of fake smiles and polite nods. By the time Arthur appeared in my doorway, I could barely hold the mask in place. Amy, a word? His voice was soft, rehearsed. He sat across from me, his silver hair catching the light. I know today was difficult, but you're valuable here. Lily needs someone with your experience. I'd like you to take on a senior advisory role, help her succeed, train her to do my job. The betrayal was almost elegant in its cruelty. I leaned back, studying the man I had once trusted. Arthur, 3 months ago you told me this promotion was mine. You said I'd earned it. What changed? He shifted, fingers twisting his wedding band. Business needs evolve. Lily brings a fresh perspective. 8 weeks of perspective, I said quietly, versus 3 years of results. He sighed. Amy, you're taking this too personally. I almost laughed. Too personally? This was my career, my life. But then he said the words that cracked something inside me. Family looks out for each other. Lily needed this opportunity. You don't need it the way she does. There it was, the truth. I wasn't being judged by merit. I was being sacrificed on the altar of family politics. That night, at home, Joseph listened in silence as I told him everything. His jaw tightened, his eyes darkened. When I repeated Arthur's words, "You're secure here, you don't need it," Joseph nearly reached for his phone to confront his father. I stopped him. This isn't your fight, it's mine. But the damage was done. Arthur hadn't just betrayed me. He had driven a wedge between his own son and himself. The next morning, Lily bounced into my office at exactly 9 o'clock, her planner color-coded, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. Uncle Arthur says you know everything. I can't wait to learn from you. So I taught her the Morrison account, the delicate balance of client relationships, the unwritten rules I'd learned through mistakes and persistence. She scribbled notes, her questions betraying how unprepared she really was. And with each answer, each piece of knowledge I handed over, I felt something hard and cold take root inside me. By lunchtime, my patience was gone. And then, as I heated my soup in the break room, I heard Arthur's booming voice through the thin wall. She's good at maintaining the status quo, but that's not what we need anymore. Amy's become a crutch, too reliable, too predictable. I froze. Lily's softer voice followed. But she works so hard for this promotion. Some clients even asked for her. That's exactly the problem, Arthur chuckled. The clients are too comfortable with her. We need to shake things up. Amy will adapt. She always does. She doesn't have any other choice. Reliable, predictable, no other choice. I stood there, soup cooling in my hand, as his words carved something permanent into me. I wasn't an asset. I was a placeholder. A tool. Someone who could be discarded when family politics demanded it. That afternoon, I trained Lily with the same professional calm as before, but inside, I was no longer the same. Each note she scribbled, each smile she gave me, was fuel. I was documenting my own value, not for them, but for me. By evening, I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, tea untouched. Joseph was still at work, and the silence gave me clarity. My fingers hovered over the keys, then finally pressed down. Dear Arthur, please accept this letter as my formal notice of resignation. And as the words filled the screen, I felt the cold anger transform into something sharper. Not defeat, not surrender, but resolve. Tomorrow, they would learn what happens when the predictable one finally stops playing by their rules. I kept my resignation letter short, professional. Final. Thank you for the opportunities I've had here over the past 3 years. I've learned a great deal, and I'm grateful for the experience. I wish the company continued success in the future. No anger, no accusations, just closure. I read it 3 times, and with each pass, the words settled something inside me. For the first time in months, I felt peace. Not victory, not joy, just the calm that comes when a decision has finally been made. I signed it with my favorite pen, slid it into a crisp white envelope, and set it on the desk. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. The next morning, I dressed with purpose. My navy blue suit, the one that made me feel untouchable, and my grandmother's pearl earrings. If I was going to walk away, I wanted them to remember how I looked when I did it. Arthur's secretary smiled as I walked in. Good morning, Amy. She'd been kind to me for years, chatting about her grandkids over coffee breaks. She didn't know yet that this morning would be one of our last conversations. Arthur waved me into his office while finishing a call. I sat across from him, calm, composed, my resignation letter on my lap. When he finally hung up, he looked at me impatiently. What can I do for you, Amy? I've got back-to-backs all day. Wordlessly, I placed the envelope on his desk. He opened it, read, and I watched the blood drain from his face. You can't be serious. He shot to his feet, voice booming. This is a joke, some kind of tactic. I'm completely serious, I replied evenly. You can't abandon ship. No, he snapped. Lily needs your guidance. The Morrison account should be fine, I cut in. She's very enthusiastic. I'm sure she'll figure it out. Arthur began pacing, his silver hair catching the light. This is about the promotion, isn't it? Look, we can discuss other opportunities. A new title, more responsibility. Arthur, stop. My voice was quiet but absolute. He froze. This isn't about the promotion anymore. This is about respect. And I finally understand I don't have any here. He paled. That's not true. You're valued, your family. I stood slowly, smoothing my skirt. Family doesn't ask you to train your replacement in secret. Family doesn't call you predictable and reliable behind your back. Family doesn't assume you'll stay because you have no other options. His face went white. You heard that conversation. Every word. For the first time since I've known him, Arthur looked old. Amy, please, let's talk about this rationally. You misunderstood. I understood perfectly, I said, moving toward the door. Then I paused. You were right about one thing, though. I was predictable. I kept believing loyalty would be rewarded. But I'm done being predictable. He tried again, desperation. Creeping in. What do you want? More money? A corner office? Name it. I looked back at him one last time. I want to work somewhere that values me. Somewhere that sees potential instead of limitations. Somewhere that doesn't think 42 is too old to have ideas worth listening to. Then I walked out. His secretary glanced up, concern in her eyes. Everything okay, honey? I gave her a real smile. Everything's going to be just fine. For the first time in months, I meant it. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of handovers and polite goodbyes. I left Alden Ventures quietly, without bitterness, without fanfare. And when the final day came, I carried nothing with me except a box of memories and the certainty that I was finally free. 2 weeks later, while reorganizing my home office, my phone rang. An unfamiliar number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. Amy Hayes? This is Rebecca Chin from Horizon Tech. My breath caught. Horizon Tech, one of the fastest growing companies in the region. A place known for merit, not politics. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time, she continued. Daniel Morrison spoke very highly of you. He thought we should reach out. We're looking for a regional operations director. Would you be interested in learning more? Daniel, the client I'd fought for, the one Arthur had dismissed as a mere account, he remembered me. He valued me. Yes, I said, my voice steady though my heart was racing. I'd be very interested. Within days, I was in interviews. The offer came fast. 30% higher salary, stock options, real growth potential. Everything I'd been denied at Alden Ventures. On my first day at Horizon, I stepped into a modern building buzzing with energy. No whispered politics. No family. Strings. Just people who wanted to build something together. By the end of my first week, I had turned around a major client meeting, saving an account others had been ready to lose. Word spread quickly. My name carried weight, not because of family, but because of results. One evening, Marcus Williams, the CEO, leaned across the table after a strategy session. I can't believe your old company didn't promote you. Their loss is our gain. Predictability in results, he said with a smile, is exactly what leadership should be. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a placeholder. I felt like a leader. Arthur had been wrong about me. I wasn't predictable. I was unstoppable. Performance metrics were the highest they'd been in 2 years. Every morning when I walked into Horizon Tech, I was reminded of what it felt like to work at a company that valued contribution over connections. My ideas weren't just heard, they were implemented. My experience wasn't just acknowledged, it was leveraged for growth. The contrast with my old job was sharp. At Alden Ventures, I'd spent 3 years trying to prove my worth to people who had already decided I was disposable. At Horizon Tech, my worth was assumed, and the only question was how best to use it. For the first time in my professional life, I understood what it meant to be valued for merit instead of politics. 3 months into my role, the whispers started. At a networking event, Janet Mills from Pacific Financial pulled me aside. Amy, good for you on the move. Things have been interesting since you left. She leaned closer. Let's just say your replacement takes 3 weeks to return a call. That never happened when you handled our account. Her words stuck with me. 3 weeks? I used to pride myself on same-day responses. 2 weeks later, Daniel Morrison himself called me at Horizon Tech. Amy, I hope you don't mind me reaching out. We're ending our relationship with Alden Ventures this quarter. My stomach dropped. Morrison Industries was Alden's biggest client. May I ask why? Daniel sighed. Your replacement missed 2 strategy calls. She couldn't answer basic questions. And when we had a $2 million shipment crisis, she told us to file a complaint through the proper channels. Amy, you used to be on the phone with us every hour until problems were solved. I closed my eyes, imagining Arthur's face when he learned his biggest client was gone. But Daniel wasn't finished. When I called Arthur directly, he said Lily represented their new direction, and if we couldn't adapt, maybe we weren't the right fit. My jaw dropped. Arthur had practically invited Morrison to leave. Daniel's voice softened. I don't regret leaving them, but I do know one thing: the recommendation I gave Horizon Tech about hiring you. Best business advice I've ever given. After we hung up, I sat in silence. Losing Morrison would mean layoffs 15 people at least. These weren't numbers. They were real colleagues I'd worked beside for years, and sure enough, a few. Weeks later, Margaret from Alden's accounting department called me at home. Amy, there are rumors about layoffs. People are saying it's because you left, that you took the clients with you. My heart sank. Margaret, I'm not blaming you, she interrupted gently. We all saw how they treated you. But some of us have mortgages, kids in college. If Alden goes under... Her voice cracked out. I thought of Horizon's expansion. Plans. Margaret, would you be open to me giving Rebecca Chin your name? We'll need experienced financial staff as we grow. The relief in her voice nearly brought me to tears. Amy, you'd do that? You've always been good at what you do. And that should matter more than politics or age. That was the moment it clicked. This wasn't about Alden's decline anymore. It was about giving good people a place where they could thrive. Arthur's mistake was becoming the industry's lesson. When you prioritize family connections over competence, you don't just lose talent, you lose the foundation of your business. 6 months later, an embossed invitation arrived. Arthur Alden requests the pleasure of your company at the annual awards dinner. Joseph raised an eyebrow when I showed him. You're not actually considering going, are you? Actually, I said quietly, I am. Because I'm not the same woman who left in tears. I want to see who I've become. The ballroom was as grand as ever, but this time I walked in differently, confident, certain. I wore emerald green silk and the kind of smile that comes from knowing you no longer need anyone's approval. Rebecca came with me, partly for support, partly out of curiosity. Cocktail hour was full of awkward half-smiles. Some colleagues seemed happy to see me. Others looked uneasy, as if my success reflected badly on their choice to stay. Then Arthur took the stage. His hair was thinner, his face more lined. He looked smaller. This year has been challenging, he began. But we've learned about adaptation, leadership, and recognizing talent. His eyes found mine in the crowd. Then came the shocker. Our final award tonight is new, the Excellence in Leadership Award, and it goes to someone who may no longer be with us, but whose impact continues to shape this company. Amy Hayes, please come to the stage. Applause erupted. I froze. Rebecca whispered, go, this is your moment. Walking to that stage felt surreal. Arthur handed me the Crystal Award. Amy, your dedication set a standard that continues to inspire us. I took the microphone. Thank you. Working here taught me valuable lessons about business, about loyalty, and most of all, about knowing your worth. Loyalty matters, but it should never be one-sided. Hard work matters, but only when it's recognized. And sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself and your career is to walk away. The applause was scattered this time. Some clapped. Some shifted uncomfortably. Lily, at Arthur's family table, looked furious. I smiled. I'm grateful for my time here because it led me to where I am now, at a company that values merit over politics, where ideas rise on their strength, not on family ties. I handed the mic back to Arthur, whose smile was strained. Later, he approached me quietly. If you ever want to come back, Arthur, stop. 6 months ago, I might have wanted to prove something to you, but tonight I realized I don't need to prove anything to anyone except myself. I picked up my purse and the heavy crystal award. I hope Alden Ventures finds its way, but my chapter here is closed. Walking out of that ballroom, I felt a peace I hadn't expected. The woman who once begged for recognition no longer existed. In her place stood someone who knew her value and demanded it. Rebecca slipped her arm through mine. "So, how does it feel to have the last word?" I laughed. "Like freedom." That night, I placed the Crystal Award next to a photo from my first day at Horizon Tech, two symbols of one journey, one of where I'd been, one of who I'd become, and I realized sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's becoming the person you were always meant to be.